Hey there, everybody. I hope you are doing well. Good to be back with you. Welcome back to the channel. If you are a subscriber and you've been hanging out with me, I appreciate you so very much. And if you are new to the channel, real quick, I always say this at the beginning, just in case, people do land on the channel for the first time. So my name is Afefe, Touched by Tarot and Beyond. Clearly, I'm a tarot and oracle reader. I am also, however, a former newspaper journalist. So I try to stay, I'm all about the woo woo and definitely a spiritualist, but I also try to stay grounded in research and what's happening and sort of trying to, remain objective about it and apply my skills in that way as well as we go to spirit and get deeper insights on what's happening. Last thing is, I am an initiated priestess in both Wiccan and African traditions. So got a lot of spiritual stuff under my belt, and I try to use it all to give you some good content here on the channel. So I really appreciate your presence. Love your interactions, the respect. That's the only thing I ask. If you're going to leave comments, please be respectful, understanding that these are difficult times. We all have, our emotions can run really high. We have very strong feelings about different topics. And I just ask that we remain respectful toward one another, which you do in large part. So I thank you so much for that. All right, you all. Oh, and just as an aside, I would love for you all to tell me how my sound is today. I had a number of comments that people were having difficulty with my audio. Not sure what that was about. I had a good mic, but just to try it out, I've upgraded my mic. So would be interested to know how my sound is to you. On my end, it's always good, but just want to know because you are really what matters when it comes to that. All right. Iran, uh, Tehran and Israel. Yeah. Uh, I looked at this. Spirit led me to look at this a little bit last week, and what I got was I didn't see boots on the ground. Like that was just going to be a bridge too far for many Americans, especially with all of the stress on America first, right? That's certainly what FDT ran on. That is what his contingent has been about. That's what the MAGAverse lives by, right? America first. And so I didn't see boots on the ground. However, recent developments with the deployment of the aircraft carriers, and now we're hearing more and more, talk about the potential to go after this one particular site, especially because we understand the U.S. is the only country that has, I guess, the bomb or the carrier or whatever. You all know, you've been keeping up with this. But the bottom line is they're basically saying Netanyahu has been putting the pressure on FDT, saying, we're going to probably need you to come in and handle this because that area has to be stopped. So I'm going to take a look at that and see if that's what's going to happen. Interestingly, because another thing that Spirit gave me last week, and many of you have talked about it as well, is like who's in charge of the Pentagon? Are we really going to say it's Hegseth, right? For entertainment purposes only. I've said I need to get a sign or something over my head that says that. I got to do it. All right, but the bottom line is like, is Hegseth prepared to do this? Already in over his head, already with Signal Gate and other things. Like, no, he's nowhere near prepared to do this. So, from what we understand, what is this guy's name? A General Eric Kurilla. Pardon me if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. General Eric Kurilla. They call him the Gorilla. And apparently he is all about, get it lined up. Let's go get him. Let's go take him down, right? He's definitely pro escalation. And from what we understand, he is the one who is giving the guidance right now to FDT. Hegseth is basically just sitting down and shushing it for a minute and letting this guy take it over, this General Eric Kurilla. So that's what's happening. Interestingly as well, many of you probably saw, which I was like, wow, this man is really a piece of work, FDT. So I think it was Caitlin Collins from CNN on Air Force One asks FDT about why are we doing this? Because according to your director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, you know, Iran, yeah, they're working to develop, their nuclear capabilities, but they are nowhere near at a point of being a real threat, according to the intelligence that she had. And FDT looked at basically, waved off Caitlin Collins and said point blank, I don't care what she said. Talking about his director of national intelligence, one of his cabinet people. I don't care what she said. This is what's up. Wow. All right. Want to take a look at that. And I also, interestingly, in doing some research on this before I started taping, and many of you may know as well, but in case you don't, what I learned is that part of this big beautiful bill, is an additional $156 billion in funding for the Department of Defense. That is on top of, what was it, $895 billion that Joe Biden, former President Joe Biden, had already allocated for the Defense Department. So they're asking in that bill, which is already, let's save money. Let's slash all the jobs in the healthcare in the world so that we can save some money. However, while we're in the process of that, we need another 156 bill over here for what we're planning to do. Why? Right? Okay. I also got that that part of the pretext that FTD may use to justify whatever they're going to do. We'll look at it in strikes, potential strikes in Iran, is that the fact that there are estimates of around 700,000 U.S. citizens in Israel. So the idea would be not just that, he's signing on to protect Israel and doing basically Netanyahu's bidding, but that he is doing so for U.S. interests, in addition to what we've already heard about protecting the bases, the U.S. military bases over there, which Iran has made some indications that they may try and do something. So let's see what's up with that. Spirit, will there be strikes? Is the U.S. going to assist and strike in Iran? Queen of Pentacles. That's interesting. I didn't expect to see a feminine energy right out the deck. But that's also, I think that's the protection of U.S. interests. There it is. We got to protect our people. They call it pearls, but 4 Pentacles, same thing. We got to protect our interests. That's how they're going to sell it. Will they actually strike, Spirit? Will we actually see strikes there? We have the 5 of... I'm sorry, you all. This is a new deck that I'm working with, and I just misinterpreted. Forgive me. This is called the Ocean Tarot, and I saw the discs, and it looked like pentacles to me, but that's not. That's cups. Queen of Cups, 4 of Cups, and I say that because I definitely recognize here 5 of Treasure. That's 100% Pentacles, and Treasure is Pentacles. Like Afefe, if you're gonna use a deck, get familiar. I just love the imagery. I just got it yesterday. So I just whipped it open because I'm a professional. I can get it, but when creators use a different imagery, it takes me a hot minute to catch on. But that's definitely Pentacles. So the 5 of Pentacles. In reference to if they're going to strike. With the Knight of Coral, that is a wand. I can definitely see him holding the wand. So I know Knight of Wands. So they're going in. They're already sending the aircraft carriers. But they recognize this 5 of Pentacles, you all. They FDT and company, they recognize that this is really going to further isolate him. We know that the G7 situation did not go well. He ducked out because, many excuses made, but clearly he didn't want to be there when Zelensky got there. So this further isolates the U.S. Wheel of Fortune, Karma. lasting consequences, and the magician, you all. I think this is indicating that they are going to get more deeply involved. All right, I don't even want to say it out my mouth, but with those two cards coming, it feels like they're trying to spin it in a way that says we got to protect ourselves. The whole America first thing that we've been talking about. So America, but spinning it is in this is protecting American interests, even though it further isolates America from the larger global context. And then we have this magician coming with the Wheel of Fortune, long lasting consequences as a result of that. Spirit, will there be boots on the ground? Will there be boots on the ground? The Hermit, they're going to try their darndest to avoid that. Because, and you know what's interesting? Just as this Five of Pentacles is more isolationism, the Hermit is a very isolating kind of energy. It's as if doing this, the global kickback, if you will, is going to be like you're on your own, US. You're on your own for this. This is something nobody wanted to happen. This is something nobody wanted to get involved in. And we have the Ace of Cups. I got my pearls right now. Ace of Cups. So, and if you read with me, you know when I get my aces, Spirit tells me I'm on the right track. That's my confirmation with the aces. So yeah, it's kind of, I don't want to say it, you all, but it's kind of looking that way. And unfortunately, the repercussions from that is there's more alienation of the U.S. from other countries who do not by any means want to see any sort of escalation in the Middle East. And really it's going to appear that with, especially with this Eric Kurilla, this General Kurilla at the helm, that this is something that could have been avoided or could have been handled a different way, but for this desire to appear powerful. Because we also know that, certainly when it comes to Putin, FDT has looked extremely weak when it comes to what happened, Ukraine, Zelensky, and I can put an end to it in 2.5 seconds. Yeah, right? So he sort of needs this push, and he's got this gorilla, they call him the gorilla, in his ear, like, let's go for it. Now, that said, we're also hearing that the MAGAverse is losing it, right? You got Tucker Carlson, at one point a stalwart star child of the movement. Tucker Carlson just got into a big heated argument interview with who was he with? Ted Cruz. They went at it. I think it's supposed to air tonight. I won't watch it, but Carlson and Ted Cruz are going at it, button heads, because Carlson is saying, no way, no how should we do this. Marjorie Taylor Greene has come out loud. Don't America first. Don't do this. You are wrong for this. So there's this faction, Steve Bannon. There's this whole faction. But more importantly, Spirit, is when I say the MAGAverse, will there be a huge blowback? FDT goes in this direction. Will there be a huge blowback from the MAGAverse? Will they split? Will this begin to, or further, because it's already beginning to fracture that movement? Ace of Pentacles. Ace straight out the deck. Yeah, I don't want to say they're done for, because I think there's an aspect and strength. Yeah, there's this, that faction, the Tucker Carlson's, MTG, Steve Bannon factions are going to hold strong and become stronger in their opposition to him, to FDT, because this is simply not, this is not what he promised. This is the exact opposite of what he promised with America First. So there's going to be a lot, and there's the world. Ooh, there might be a whole split off. Like, I don't know if that means a new party or if that just means like definite organized opposition, not just what we're hearing and everybody, getting in front of a mic or posting on social media, but them beginning to gather themselves and say, that's it. We're going to have to go in a different direction because none of us wanted this. And I got another ace. I can move right along, you all. What are the odds? 78 cards, and we got aces back to back there, right? So yeah, the MAGAverse, get your popcorn, right? And get ready, because it's about, this is, as this escalates, we are going to see, and again, it feels like an organized opposition, not just upset and and getting on social media, etc. But this is going to be people getting together and actually organizing an oppositional group, in contrast to what is happening. The MAGAverse part 2. All right. And finally, you all, wanted to look at, if we're looking at one side, let's look at the other. The Democratic Party. Interesting that they really are in a bind. On the one hand, if they, even as regards to, regarding the deportations and what we've seen happening now, we had the gentleman in New York, I forgot his name. Somebody will tell me in the comments. But the gentleman in New York yesterday, we know what happened to Alex Padilla in California. So there's response to that, but also the Democrats recognize that had a lot to do with why they struggled so hard in the election over the immigration issue. So they're trying to be really careful about that, and they're trying to be careful because they don't want to see, in regards to the Tehran or Iran, Israel, they don't want to, they got to be really careful about, on the one hand, seeming anti-Islam, or Islamophobic, and on the other hand, not being loyal to Israel. It's a tough position. But here's what I heard. So we know the DNC's gone off the rails. You got Ken Martin, David Hogg has left because there was a big brouhaha that he was not, there was some procedural error, and rather than try, he knew he was toast. He and Ken Martin fell out. Ken Martin, apparently some tape was leaked. Ken Martin said, was heard saying, you have basically effed up my whole situation here. Knowing that the DNC, one of its primary functions is to raise money for the party. And so Kim Martin is like, you have definitely, you're a problem for me. And David Hogg is like, you know what, if there's I'm out. Yeah, we're going to see more from him. He's not going to go away quietly, you all. But also, in response to that, we had two people. What were their names? I think I wrote them down. Gosh. But there were two American Federation of Teachers, so labor unions, Randy Weingarten and Lee Saunders, bailed on the DNC. They were stalwarts, American Federation of Teachers. And they were like, okay, you know what, Ken, you do you. We're going to leave as well. So we're going to see more from that. But what I want to look at is Obama. Barack Obama, former President Barack Obama. So we've been waiting to hear his voice, Kamala's voice, like somebody get up and say something loudly. In addition, all credit due to Pritzker and Waltz et al., right? So Obama is being, because we're talking fundraising, DNC. So the DNC has apparently gotten President Obama to agree to speak at a fundraiser at New Jersey Governor, what is his name? Phil Murphy, his house, to try and get some things going with the establishment, the Democratic establishment. And he's already said, he had an interview with Heather Cox Richardson, President Obama did, and he said, the thing that pained me, he said, we're going to be tested, or we're gonna be tested, is what he said. So he's trying not to come out too hard against, specifically and rile the MAGA base, just as the name Biden, Hunter, anybody Biden, anybody Jill Biden, any, much less President Biden, right? Joe Biden. And you say that name and woof, here it goes. You say Obama and woof, here it goes. So he's trying to walk a really fine line, but he also recognizes that he can help get the party some money. So that's something to be aware of as well. Spirit, is the DNC going to regroup? Queen of Cups comes back. Queen of Pearls. It is so interesting to me that lately when I've been doing these readings, you all, I get such a lot of feminine energy. And that's interesting because I'm expecting a lot of really almost toxic masculine energy, which sometimes appears. But there is a shift going on here. Page of Cups. No, Page of Wands. I'm sorry. Page of Wands. Still getting used to this deck. Page of Wands and the Queen of Cups. Those pearls or cups. There's I know where we're going. Thank you, Spirit. Because the last part of my reading was going to be feminine leadership within the Democratic Party. We are going to definitely see an increased momentum around that. And I'm going to close with what's being deemed the new mod squad. So on the one hand, we have Obama and et al., President Obama et al., being the established Dems being called out to say, we got to keep some momentum here. We got to keep some stability here at the same time that we've got potentially the David Hoggs of the world who are going to split off and do something else. We'll keep an eye on that later. Meanwhile, we've got the centrists who are evolving, and they're calling them the Mod Squad, and they are Mikey Sherrill. We talked about her last week because she won the New Jersey Democratic primary, right? So apparently Mikey Sherrill, Abigail Spanberger out of Virginia, right? Governor, Democratic candidate for governor in Virginia, and Alyssa Slotkin, freshman senator out of Michigan. So those three, apparently in a Washington Post article that just came out today, don't fuss at me. I told you I used to be a journalist, so some of those traditional media, I just, it's in my blood. I'm so sorry. But you learn things. And this mod squad that they're calling them, so those three, Mikey Sherrill, I call him Mickey, Mikey Sherrill, Abigail Spanberger, and Alyssa Slotkin are apparently like pals, and they have a group chat, and they are evolving and really, gathering some momentum. Now, Spanberger out of Virginia and Slotkin are former CIA, no joke, as Mikey Sherrill, former Navy pilot. So they've all got this really interesting background, and yet they are all sort of more centrist, not as far progressive liberal as someone say a David Hogg, who's recommending like this overhaul of let's get rid of all the old guard. Not mad at that, right? Not completely mad at that. There's some justification there, but there is an argument: is that a bridge too far? Are Dems ready to really go in that direction? Is everybody ready to be that progressive versus this mod squad, which they've already got a toehold? You've got Slotkin already in the Senate, and you've got Mikey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger looking pretty decent for their races that are going to happen this year. Those governor races, November of this year, for Virginia and New Jersey. So by all means, keeping an eye on that. Spirit, are they going to be, and I think that's why part of why I keep getting all this feminine energy around the momentum going forward. Spirit, are those three going to represent a faction that is developing? We have the Four of Pentacles. Fours are foundational, building. building momentum. And I also feel like there will be a fourth. I feel like that number means something. There's somebody else who's going to come in on that. I don't know if it's a candidate or someone who's somebody who's in Congress, but that feels like there's somebody else who's going to come into that. We've got the devil, and the devil can be bondage around what you are accustomed to or what you feel like you need. And it came reversed. I don't always read reversals, but I think this, in reference to these women, is breaking the chains of toxic masculinity in government specifically. Am I right about that, Spirit? Five of spears, they call it, but 5 of wands. Yes, the toxic masculinity of constant fighting and vitriol and cruelty. Let's call it what it is, cruelty. They want to they see it as that's that devil, and the idea that they want to break those chains. And they've been talking about that and supporting one another and building their own support network. Is that going to grow, Spirit? We have the Empress. Ooh, the divine feminine is like, yes, let's talk about it. And she comes with the 2 of wands. Absolutely. You all keep an eye on them. Keep an eye on this mod squad that's evolving. And again, I feel like with that 4 of Pentacles we got, there may be someone else that joins them, and it may grow further, even more than that. But yes, look at that, the Empress and the 2 of wands. These ladies, these women are no joke, and even though they may not be as progressive as some would appreciate, we remember that Slotkin out of Michigan, if I'm not mistaken, she was chosen to give the Democratic response to the address earlier this year. So she has a voice. She is recognized to the presidential address. She was chosen to do that. This is going to be a force. These women are going to be a force to contend with. And I feel like I don't even need to ask. I really feel strongly, you all, that the governors, these 2 women will be the governors of their respective states. Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey and Abigail Spanberger in Virginia. Yeah. I mean, we'll look as we get closer to November, but I really think so. All right, you all, I'm going to cut it off here. I hope that was helpful to you. There is so much momentum. And even though we're seeing splits to speak of, but we got the MAGAverse doing its thing. We've got the DNC, the Dems on, how progressive, how centrist, how established, going back to President Obama getting out there and trying to, do what he can do in the way that he does it, sort of being very moderate in his tone. But this is all momentum. And going back to what he said, to quote President Obama, we are going to be tested, and we are being tested. And meanwhile, we can also witness this, this implosion, if you will, of the MAGAverse, which clearly, if things happen in Iran the way it looks like it may continue to progress with this guerrilla general, yeah, it's not going to let up. It's going to continue. And hey, let's let it be what it's going to be. They're being tested too. All right. You all take really good care of yourselves out there. Stay safe. I always end with keep your chin up. Know who you are. Do not. This is, what is it? Especially after the protest that when the people united can never be defeated, right? And wishing peace and goodness to all people across the board. That is something that we seem to be losing more and more in our politics and in our cultural responses, and certainly, in keeping everyone in our prayers, and continuing to work together, because it's who we are ultimately. If we respond to source energy, right? Our shoulders back, keeping relaxed and remembering who we are, coming from our heart space, having compassion for one another and support for one another. All right, I'll talk to you real soon.